Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum, and we're going to actually look at some of the same models we've looked at before, but we're kind of trying to get an idea of where Ethereum could go over the next, say, 1 to 2 years, rather than, say, by the peak of the next bull market. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and be sure to click that bell icon to get notifications of future videos so you can stay in the loop as to what is going on in the markets. Remember, we also have a Telegram channel that you can check out if you want to discuss these charts, and a premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Let's go ahead and jump in. So you guys know this regression curve. I mean, I don't need to explain it for the most part, but it's basically just fit to non-bubble data. I don't need to explain it, but here I'm going to go ahead and explain it. It's fit to non-bubble data, and the idea was, well, this is generally the accumulation phase. And in fact, I made a video, about a week ago saying, Ethereum, this is the the accumulation phase of a lifetime, and I think that still is true. And even though Ethereum has moved from like 235 to 284 at the time of this video, I still think that within the scheme of the entire market cycle, that 284 is still a relatively good deal. Now, if your goal is, say, a 90-day ROI, well, then there's no guarantees, because in 90 days, Ethereum could be 250 or 200. We don't really know. It could also be 400. So again, short-term ROI, more of a gamble. In terms of the grand market cycle and what might take place over, say, the next several years, I still think this is a fairly good valuation of Ethereum. Now, we made the video a few days ago and we said, okay, we're in this accumulation phase. We're really honing in on our fair value, and the fair value at present time is 234.76. And we said, there's a good chance we're either going to break down or break up. It doesn't really matter, but ultimately speaking, this is, buying at our fair valuation line. If it does break down, it doesn't tend to stay there very long. So you can see the amount of time we spent below the fair value is relatively short-lived. So you can see some areas over here and here and here. And to help you guys kind of picture that a little bit better, because it's kind of hard to see it on this scale, here is this is the difference. So basically I'm just taking the closing price, and dividing by the fair value at that time. And then I'm actually taking the natural log of that number. So the reason I'm doing that is so that this is not completely skewed to just, say, this single peak, but you can appreciate other smaller moves in the market. Now, the first thing you can do is you can go to a value of 0. Now, why is 0 important? Well, if the value is 1, so if the closing price divided by the fair value price is 1, so basically these points here where it's right on top of it, then you're taking the natural log of 1. Back to math class, for those who paid attention, the natural log of 1 is 0. So this yellow line here, it shows you the times when the price of Ethereum was right on top of the fair value. Okay, let's keep moving. So the next thing is to look below it. So it goes all the way down to around negative point. Let me scroll this like that so we can see it a little bit better. So if you go to the very bottom, it goes to around negative 0.5 or so. So this is the general region where you can see that it is bottomed with respect to the fair valuation line. And one of the things you should note, right, is if it's below 0, then, like you can see, it's between, say, 0 and negative 0.5. The reason it's a negative number is because now the closing price, so you're taking the closing price and dividing by the regression line, which is higher, so it's number less than 1, and the natural log of number less, like, say, between 0 and 1, which is because this is how it's defined here, you're going to get a negative number. So this is the general idea. Now, one of the things you should take away from this is, are we going to create, these types of mountains? I made a video the other day called it takes giants to move mountains. And the inspiration for that came from just what I feel like looks like these mountains that form over the macro scale. And I was like, to make these mountains and to move these mountains, we really need, it's going to take a lot more than just a simple Uniswap pump or something like that. It's going to really take the entire market moving up. And it's interesting too because Bitcoin is moving up now as well. So it's Bitcoin is the index of the market, but Ethereum tends to really be mapping along with it. Now, one of the things we've spoken about, right, is the time that it's going to take to see a breakout again. And if you go over here, so this move here corresponded to Bitcoin holding the 20-week moving average. So we remember that, right? It was back in the first quarter of 2016, right? I'm not going to show it. Bitcoin held the 20-week moving average as support, and then Ethereum, this is when Ethereum took off. Now, if you draw a trend line from where it was at that time all the way over, that the value is around, it's somewhere around 2. But remember, this is the log of that number. So what would that put us? Well, the natural log of what would give you a value of around, say, somewhere around 2, somewhere around that area. It'd be 7.5. So 7.5 would mean that if you take, say, a measured move between the fair value, and I'm not going to zoom in to get this exact, but the fair value, and then you just say go up to the peak, you can see, it's around 600, 700%, somewhere in that area. So meaning in this area, it reached a valuation that was 700% overvalued from the fair value. Now, if we go over to present day, what would that look like if the fair value, or if the price of Ethereum were overvalued by 700%? And by the way, I should first emphasize, I don't think this is going to happen, but just as a thought exercise so that you guys can see a move that would be, similar to that one from the fair value would put the value of Ethereum at around, say, $1,800, $1,900. Do I think that's going to happen in the short term? No, I don't. Now, let's talk about how could we arrive at a value that might make more sense. And, I don't really have a lot of data to go on. I think one of the most common criticisms I see is that, well, Ben, you're only using, say, a few a few of these pumps as evidence for what you're projecting. Well, I could only use the data that's there. I can't use the data that's not there. And so to me, it makes sense to make models based on data that we have and at least project out what I think is going to happen based on not using any data and then just throwing a dart at the board and saying, oh, such and such coin is going to go to this value, give the video a thumbs up. No, this is not what the channel's about. We at least want to use data to kind of talk about these predictions and not just throw a random number out there and just say, oh, well, fundamentals, community is great, blah, blah, blah. No one cares. No one cares about that. So let's dive in. Okay, let's actually dive into what could we expect. And before we do that, I just want to remind you that we do have a premium list, so check it out, intothecryptoverse.com. Tons of stuff. Tons of value with this. You get access to weekly videos, a weekly report, a private Telegram channel with alerts to tell you what I'm doing and what I think of the market, and then also a Google Sheets dashboard with the live risk metrics available for several coins, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Chainlink, and a few others. So please check it out. You can pay with cryptocurrency for 6 or 12 months and get a 5 to 10% discount. And if you're curious about what people have to say, check out the Telegram channel. And it's we have almost 4,300 people in that group, and about over 400 of them are on the premium list. About 1/10 are on the premium list. So do check it out because I do think it is worthwhile. Now let's dive in because I want to give you guys more of a where are we going to go if I don't see us going to say $1,800 in the short term. Well, where could we go over the next say 1 to 2 years? Well, we're going to pull up this PDF. So this is our fair value line, and we're drawing it out to say 2024. From here, if you remember, our projection for maybe sometime in 2023, and I reserve the right to say there's an error on this. I have no idea when it's going to occur exactly. I think it could come as early as the fourth quarter of 2022, or maybe even as late as the second quarter of 2024. I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but I do think that Ethereum could flirt with 5 figures during that time. It could flirt with that area. Personally speaking, I would probably be mostly out of the market if Ethereum is around 10,000. Like that would probably be like my final sell for Ethereum. And I would wish you guys the best of luck if you want to stick in it and ride it higher. I really doubt it would go any higher if we even make it up to this point. But let's suppose that this is where we go. And we'll talk about why we think that. If you remember, this is our regression line, or this is the price minus the fair value, the log line, divided by the log line. So this is this one. And you can see during the last market cycle, we peaked at around 3,000%. Meaning this here was it was a 3,000, that was the percent difference, right? 3,000% between this and the fair value line. Now, if you remember, Bitcoin has been around for a lot longer. We have a lot more data. We have that same type of chart for Bitcoin. Well, it was the 2015 or 2013 market cycle for Bitcoin where it was overvalued by 3,000%. In the first cycle, it was overvalued by, I think like 5,000% or so. In the second cycle, 3,000%, and then in the last cycle, 1,000%. So maybe we could speculate that the volatility, we already know that the volatility of Ethereum is higher than Bitcoin. When Bitcoin crashes, Ethereum crashes harder. But at the same time, when Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum goes up more. One of the questions I often get is, well, if Ethereum is going to have a better market cycle than Bitcoin, why not just go, why own Bitcoin? It's called risk, you have to maximize your risk-adjusted returns. It's not about your returns, it's your risk-adjusted returns. There are no sure things. So let's speculate that since Bitcoin's, if it peaked at 1,000%, then we could say that maybe Ethereum would peak at 1,000% overvaluation from the trend line in 2023. Now, if that's true, right? The point of this video is to not say. You guys are familiar with that prediction of say, somewhere between maybe a $5,000 to $10,000 ether. But the point is to say, well, where could we get in the meantime? Because in the last cycle, Ethereum saw a significant move when Bitcoin got above the 20-week and held it as support. It saw another move when Bitcoin got to its previous all-time high, and then that move was essentially a continuation till the end of the market cycle, or at least the end of the peak. I don't want to say market cycle because you could say the market cycle ends at the bottom, obviously not the top. But if you look at, say, the ratios, right? This was the 3,000% overvaluation at the end of the bull run, and kind of like the intermediate move that Ethereum had was only a modest 600% overvaluation. So we can note that while I drew it like this originally, saying, okay, well, maybe this is the way we get there. Nothing just kind of is. Nothing in crypto has just a nice curve like this. It's choppy. It comes up. It really destroys people that then buy up here, and then they find themselves potentially capitulating during the middle of a bull run because they were the dumb money coming in. Then they're they're selling to the smart money down here, and it's just like a rinse and repeat cycle. It's brutal. Crypto is brutal for the uninitiated. So let's suppose that Ethereum were to do something similar. And again, we don't know when this is going to happen. The move that we're seeing now could be the start of it. Or we could see stocks, we could see traditional markets crash, and then maybe crypto follows suit. I don't know. What I do know is that I think, or what I feel like I know, is that we're experiencing lengthening cycles. And it's going to take several years for Bitcoin to really build up to $100,000 or say a six-figure Bitcoin. It's not going to happen in 1 year. And despite the fact that it does normally go parabolic after a certain period of time, the rate of increase is still decreasing each market cycle, and it's taking longer. So if we were to see a move from Ethereum and it were similar, let's say a 5x. So we can note that the overvaluation in 2016 was 1/5 of the overvaluation in 2018. Now, if we speculate that our next overvaluation in, let's say, 2023, again, could be 2022, late 2022, could be 2024, let's just say it's a 1,000% overvaluation in 2023, well then, where could it put a more immediate move that maybe happens in the coming months? Maybe it happens in 2021. I don't know, because I don't really think Bitcoin's going to get to a sustainable $20,000 Bitcoin for another 15 months or so. But where could it put Ethereum if we were to see a similarity as the last time? Well, if it's 1/5, then that means, and I get that maybe that comment is going to make people mad to say just take a simple ratio, but I'm just working with what I got, guys. Then this would be, say, a 200% overvaluation, which would be kind of like a little taste of what might come later on in the market cycle. Well, the fair valuation, we know it was around 236 or so. But let's just say it's around a $250 fair valuation, because again, this is the fair valuation at present time. But by the time that Ethereum could reach a 200% overvaluation, the regression line, again, is monotonically increasing. It doesn't go down. So then by that time, the value of Ethereum could be 275 or 260. It depends on when it happens. And in this situation, it would put Ethereum at approximately $750 if it were 200% overvalued with respect to the regression line, based on the ratio that we saw from this overvaluation to this overvaluation. Now, I get that there's a lot of assumptions in there and a lot of hand-wavy calculations, but I'm just trying to give you guys an idea. We know that the volatility is decreasing. We do not expect a $2,000 Ethereum this year, and not even next year, most likely. So keep the emotions in check. Let's just see what the math tells us. Again, after this market cycle, whatever does happen, we'll have even more data to discuss the following market cycle with. And you wonder, this is one of the reasons why markets become more efficient. The longer they're around, the more people wise up to what's going on, and people start to realize, maybe if I think that this is an undervalued region, and you could even talk about the efficient market hypothesis and say nothing's ever undervalued or overvalued, but it's the fair value at the time. But if this is, say, an undervalued region, then people start to wise up, and then they start buying in this region more. Thus, we would end up spending less and less time dipping really far down here, because people start to realize, okay, this is the time to buy. And then the more it gets up in this speculative bubble, people try to start to front run that sell, which means it ends up not being as volatile as it was the last market cycle, because people don't want to get burned again. And then you rinse and repeat that cycle with more and more people, and then the market becomes more efficient. So instantaneously, if we were to see a 200% overvaluation, it would put it around 750 or so. If it takes until, say, 2021, then maybe it could be a little bit higher. It could be like a 200% overvaluation in 2021 would be at $900, because the fair valuation in 2021 would be $300. So again, it's a little bit arbitrary, but I do think these numbers are somewhat realistic. I'm not going to make a video and say it's going to go to $1 million or anything, because I really don't believe that. But I do think, 750 honestly sounds preposterous to a lot of people, and it can be hard to believe sometimes. But again, if you take a step back and recognize that Ethereum once upon a time moved from $1 to $1,400 in like 2.5 years, and you're going to say that it can't go from 250 or 280 to 750. It's a get a little bit of perspective there. I get that it sounds crazy, and if you found my channel through videos that I do on other markets, just look at the data. The data tells you what can happen. You just need to be ready if it does happen. So again, I'm not going to promise anything. I'm not promising a $750 Ethereum in the immediate future, but I do think we will get there, and it's just a matter of time. So let me know what you guys think. There's the comment section below. You can leave your comments. You can tell me, what you think. If you feel free to criticize. I'm open to criticism. Just don't, just make it fair criticism. Say, okay, well, I like it, but maybe you can improve it if you thought about this, or did you consider this other aspect of it? And then maybe I'll take a look at it. But let me know what you guys think. You can also check out the Telegram channel in the description below. It'll link you to my personal, or the public Telegram group. Almost 4,300 people, so it is growing quite a bit, actually. So do feel free to join that community. I am pretty regularly active in there. Daily, I'm active in that group for the most part. So do check it out. And we also, remember, we do have the premium list into the cryptoverse.com. Tons of exclusive content just for you guys that sign up for that. And again, you can get a discount for paying in crypto. So Final reminder, please subscribe to the channel. Trying to grow the channel to hit 30,000 subscribers soon. Would love to see the channel grow. And give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.